Hello, and by the way, the thing came up before you did it. I can see it now.
Okay.
Hello, and welcome to Insights and Straight Talk with me. I'm Rod Duff, and sitting alongside.
Producer Barbie.
How you doing today, Producer Barbie?
I'm doing wonderful.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Another day, as you guys see, we are starting to make some improvements. I don't have quite the flashlight on my head. Sorry, we were working, and I'm not quite completed out of that.
He was a bull in a china shop, just show you now. I have an injured foot here.
That is a very true thing, unfortunately. The founding fathers were not perfect people, but, see, I can't do it that way. The founding fathers were not perfect people, but when they created the Constitution, they created the first time in civilization a vision and a path to change the narrative, and if used, people's lives would forever be utopian. Go ahead and do it.
We believe that by a simple transfer of priorities, we can expect dynamic improvements in science and social peace and education, and mental health, and all things would be directed by politicians. So it benefits the individual in their responsibility.
The individual politician in their area of responsibility is what I should. You know what what it's trying to say there?
No. I'm just reading. I'm reading what you wrote.
All right. Now, do you want to test this, or you want to keep going? And
Let's keep going.
okay. So, and let.
I'm going to read the next one.
Well, always pause for a second before you start reading, because that way I can use that little bit of time to edit.
Okay.
Okay.
We believe that every decision made by an elected official must first and always be judged by having the results of the action, being for and coming from the betterment of the citizens and each citizen of the United States.
Whew.
Written by Rod Duff.
We understand that a utopia on Earth must come from the people, by the people, and for the people. Oh, by the way, Barbie, did you notice I have my We the People?
We the people.
There it is. It's going on today. We're
Yes.
nailing it.
We believe the system deserves her people to not be lazy any longer.
Oh, we got those doors open, that's why. Okay, say that again.
We believe the system deserves her people to not be lazy any longer.
The less society talks to the people around them, the more it dissolves.
We are shocked that amongst 300,000 people, then subtract a few on age, and from that cycle after cycle, these asking for highest leadership roles do not make any decision, party first always, into consideration and rarely consider its citizens. I have no idea what I just read.
That one's
I have no clue. Written by Rod Duff.
I am
Let's make that clear.
I am editing these as I read them, because these were just notes I was plunking off my head.
Note to you, I should understand what I'm reading.
Well, that's the first time you're reading it, so that's you've had it for a little bit there. We believe no citizen should ever live below a poverty line, or ever be in need for anything to maintain a happy and healthy life.
The U.S. government spends over $5 trillion a year. The money is not the issue. The fact that every penny of the money that comes in some form or another through and from the middle class, as it always has been. This goes back and before we were all called peasants by the king and their government. That was when there were kings, and technically we still have the same system now, because the free people of the United States do not follow the constitutions and the Bill of Rights. Message O, how to create this utopia on earth. Not following.
The early governments were quite rudimentary compared to modern standards, but represented the beginning of structured political organizations. They were often led by kings or priests, as Barbie was just talking about.
And written by Rod Duff.
No, this is written. I didn't write the kings. Well, I wrote the words. But,
You wrote it all. Take credit where
Okay.
credit's due.
and their responsibilities included maintaining infrastructure, collecting taxes, and providing justice. Do you believe there is a current utopia on earth, Barbie? You remember this, Barbie? Remember what we did the other day?
Yes.
Okay. Take a pause. Do you believe there's a current utopia on earth, Barbie?
Yes.
That's not the answer.
Oh.
Do you believe there is? I mean,
No.
Okay, so you got to answer it. Make a sentence answer. I'm asking you a question, and you're giving me your opinion. Remember, we did this a couple days ago.
Okay.
All right. So, do you believe there is a current utopia on earth?
No.
That's a word, not a sentence. Why don't you believe that? Okay. All right, next question. Do you believe there could be a utopia on earth?
Yes.
And why do you believe that?
Because I want to believe it.
Okay, I agree. I believe that until the founding fathers, it would be impossible to ever have a utopia on earth. And so my answer is yes. There could be a utopia on earth. Utopia is the thing that can be created if our politicians, or when our politicians, actually use their budgets and make their decisions based on criteria. And we were saying some of those earlier. Criteria meaning every decision must in some way benefit the citizens of the United States. The ROI on being able to do this is phenomenal in that a couple hours every day, 80% of the middle class joins what we're talking about here. And the ROI on that is literally cycles. We've got to get a few election cycles through. Democrat, Republican, Independent, doesn't matter. What we need to understand is who are actually doing the bidding for the people of the United States, whichever party, and what their decisions are, what their bills or philosophy is, is based on the regions that they cover. In those regions, we need to be able to have people involved enough so that they can come in and make educated decisions in the polling areas. What do you think, Barbie?
I think it sounds reasonable. It sounds like common sense.
Yeah, it's easy. It's simple. It's not easy, but it is simple. The answer is there, and it's just a matter of us in these type of informational areas. These channels of information. Speaking of which, we're going to be having some special guests. We're going to have experts in different fields. What are some of the areas you're most in what we're talking about, Barbie? What are some of the areas that you think interest you the most, or what you're interested about them the most?
Well, for me, I'm just interested in people and different walks of life and their different thoughts. So I'd be interested to engage with more of the audience to see what they're interested in and engage in conversations with them to expand and broaden our mind.
Yeah, well, and while doing that, the goal of all of this, right, is to expand the quality of life for every American. There should be nobody living underneath the poverty line. This isn't a social idea. Socialism, communism, actually that's the way we're headed, is is the opposite in that if 80%, just 80%, you know, there's what, 300 million of us, somewhere in that range. If 80% of that middle class got together and started voting in a respectful and responsible way, according to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, according to our representative democracy, the rules set up. It's all set up. It's structured there. Our founding fathers, they weren't perfect people, but what they did do is they created a path for the American people to create a utopia on earth. The only way that's going to happen is if the people that are politicians or political leaders are managing, if those political leaders actually are held responsible for their decisions to us. It's the only way it's going to happen, and it can happen because what did you say earlier? There was over $5 trillion a year spent by the U.S. government. All of that comes in. Respond though. And I'm talking a lot here. That interaction was great. Even a yes or this or that every once in a while.
Okay.
All right, just to keep that.
Yes.
You were talking earlier that that our government, the U.S. government, spends over $5 trillion, somewhere in that range, $5 trillion a year annually budget.
Yes.
Yeah. So imagine if we had control of the direction that money was spent. Meaning 190 million people. Let's see. It was probably about 170 million people that vote. If you had 80% of those people actually voting in an educated way, meaning we've talked to each other, we've brought people together that are on this point, on this side of a point, and together with some people that are on this side of the point, and then we talk about that point. In that point, we can discover, because I guarantee that people all over here are listening to these news radio stations and hearing a whole different story than the people that are over here in this belief. They're listening to a whole different news stations and media outlets.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's simple to do. It's going to take a couple hours probably every week, but think about it. Every Sunday, where do 70 to 90,000 people congregate for a common goal? Every Saturday, every Sunday, every NFL stadium is packed to the rims, every soccer stadium. So it's not a matter of that people won't come together for a common goal. It's a matter of creating the interest, having people know the end result, the ROI of what you and I are talking about on this station here, this channel, this podcast.
Right. Yeah.
I want you to add some stuff. All right.
Should we test it and see?
Yeah. Yep. Sure. Yeah.
That's a wrap, everyone.
That's a wrap.
See you next time.